failing is a skill. Losing is a skill. If you learn how to come back from, there is no reason why a girl who shows up in Miss Hawaii every year and loses would want to go back the next year. And there I was, the Susan Lucci of the Miss Hawaii pageant system, and I got real comfortable with being okay with losing. And when you are able to do that, you are unstoppable because you know that there is something on the other side of that. I may not have won the trophy, but I've gained experience. I've had fun. I've made connections, and I'll be better the next time. The younger you learn how to do that, and you're okay with not being validated, you're going to be a very powerful person later because you just become friends with the challenge.
Win with Jimmy Nguyen, the vodcast for life and career insights from global winners. Hi, everyone. This is Jimmy Nguyen, and today my guest on Win with Jimmy Nguyen is the one, the only, my favorite ever Miss Universe, and Miss USA 1997 from Hawaii, USA, who is now a media personality and host, art community advocate, hula dancer, and beauty icon. Welcome from the beautiful island of Hawaii, Brook Mahealani Lee. Did I do that right?
Hi. Yeah, sure. It was close. It was in the neighborhood. How are you?
I am so well. So for our audience, Brooke and I have known each other for many, many years now, starting in Los Angeles. Yes.
Many lifetimes.
But because we are both of Asian descent, we like to think we look exactly the same. Actually, I think you look better than when I first met you in LA.
Oh, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So, Brooke is now living back in Hawaii. How is Hawaii life?
Good. I escaped all of the major disasters in California. I think it was divine intervention all the way around. So I've been here about 5 years now. So I'm here with my kids and my husband, and we're just sort of, watching the world go round. So
yeah, it's been a dramatic time. So on our session today, our goal with this podcast is really to learn about people's lives and their career and life journeys, and hopefully get some lessons for our audience on how they can apply to their lives things you've learned to win. And today I want you to know you were my first guest on this podcast. That's outside outside of the tech world, because my first guests have all been focused on technology, blockchain, ventures, which I work in now.
Right.
But I thought it was really important to get guests who have had success outside in other factors of life, because we can learn from a lot. So while you're best known for success in the beauty pageant world, I know you've been really an inspiration and ability to help inspire people to succeed in many areas. So let's dig in to start by talking about you, Brooke. Before there was Brooke Beauty Queen, tell us about your young life upbringing.
Being born and raised in a little tiny island in the middle of the sea has its, benefits and its challenges. I, grew up here, went to school here, went to college here, and pageants sort of entered my life like it does for most girls in small towns at a young age, because your peers are doing it and it's something you want to do and be part of a group. So I started running in little pageants here and there, probably since I was in the 7th grade or 6th or 7th grade. Never very good at it. Never won a single one. But I just did it because my friends did it. And when I got into college years, it became more serious because I needed money for school. And so I was in the Miss America system, which is the other system to Miss USA, and I ran in that for several years. Never won, maybe placed once the last year that I aged out, but I accumulated a lot of scholarship money. I went to college on it. I got a degree out of it, debt-free, which is something that is, very important in these days and age. And then I decided to run for Miss Hawaii USA on a lark. Didn't have any sponsors and had really no track record of winning, and won Miss Hawaii USA, went to USA, won USA, went to Universe, won Universe. So if there's anything to be said for, just doing something for the sake of doing it and not because you get the returns on the investment, I guess you would say that that would be me. Because there was really no indication that I was good at it or that I had gotten any sort of soccer trophies for doing it. I just enjoyed the process. I enjoyed being on stage. I enjoyed the interview segment was kind of my superpower.
Yes.
And so, I just sort of did it for the sake of doing it, not for the sake of wanting to win. And I think that got me far. Yeah.
It's interesting. I really want to dig into that because, for those of you who follow the beauty pageant world, there are, pageant pros out there who trained, especially in some countries, not like the U.S., where the pageant world is not as big in the U.S. for young ladies as it is.
The industry is, but
correct. You are correct. The
zeitgeist, the zeitgeist of the overall culture around it is not as prevalent as it is in other countries. But I have a lot of friends who are in the business. I have a lot of former Miss USAs who are pageant coaches, and the industry in and of itself is doing very, very well. I just think that we as a collective culture in the United States doesn't really follow it or have an affinity for it like they used to. Whereas in other countries, it is sort of still very central to their identity and how they perceive glamour and beauty and things like that. So
I'm seeing that happen a lot in my native Vietnam, which is, I've been traveling back to, and the beauty pageant world is booming there with even a new global pageant started there recently. But I think the lesson that I wanted to draw out from your experience is you kept competing in an activity because one, you liked it. It helped you do things you enjoyed and hone skills being on stage and interviewing and speaking. And it helped you earn money at one point for college. And that's why you were doing it, not necessarily with this vision that you were going to win the grand prize. When you talk to younger people now, how does it influence how you tell them to make choices about the activities that they do in their young life?
I mean, it boils down to my kids are so over me, honestly, like my son and my daughter, because I really am, I am a true testament in doing something regardless of the results. And that if you stick to it enough and you enjoy what you're doing, at some point, the merry-go-round comes back around. It may not be a crown on your head, but it will be in your experiences, in your ability to look beyond the immediateness of what am I getting out of it right now versus what am I getting out of it long run? And so, a lot of pageant contestants have come to me and they've asked me to train. I personally don't train people. I wasn't trained, so it didn't work for me. So I have a hard time flipping that script and saying I can do that for other people if that's not how I found my path in pageants. But I do offer them advice in the sense that it's like, really in today's day and age, as it was always, even when I was a dinosaur and back in my day, it's really just about authenticity and, finding your voice in general. And in today's day and age, because there was no social media when I was Miss Universe. There was no internet. There was internet, but there was no
just starting.
There was no Instagram. There was, we didn't have the entire world like on our backs and, giving us instant feedback all the time. And so it's very difficult in today's day and age to be able to fight through all of that and keep your authenticity when you have so much extenuating pressure every time you make a move. I mean, I can't imagine what it would be like if I were Miss Universe today with the fact that there is so many other voices in the room. Like if I won today saying I would eat everything, I would eat it twice. I'm not sure. I don't know what, maybe it would have resounded with people because it still resounds today. Every season, there's another TikTok. My thing goes viral every couple of, months or so where someone discovers it and is like, oh. So, I just know that you have to live your life by your own rules and you can't let a pageant coach or your mom or your boyfriend or people tell you what it is that you need to be. You have to find that for yourself. And a lot of pretty girls that run in pageants, this is where they find their voices, is because usually if you fall into the modeling category or you're doing things on Instagram and you're an influencer, you're not necessarily asked these types of questions like you are on stage or in interview. This is an opportunity like I always kid people, I grew up as a model. We were basically raised like veal. Like you were just, you were put in a box. Don't get dark. Don't get scars. Show up to the Japanese interviews for these commercials. Stay as pale as you can in Hawaii. But no one's asking you your opinions on adult literacy or the AIDS epidemic or, homelessness in Hawaii. But when you get on a pageant stage, those are required. Like you're going to have a basic understanding of the world around you. And it challenges a lot of girls who are gifted genetically to push themselves beyond just the image. And that's why I support pageants, because it challenges okay, you're pretty. Everybody here's pretty. You're going to have to show up with more than that.
That is such a great summary of, why there's still such an interest for young ladies to participate in pageants, even when, some people out in the world think that they're outdated, right? I think
or they're bimbos, or we're bimbos, which look, every time a girl says the wrong answer, can't find Iraq on a map or like whatever, it's fair. Politicians have moments when they're in front of a camera and on a microphone. Everybody has moments, but I think the overall agenda, and like I always tell people, when a beauty queen decides to step out of the ring and go into politics or to city council or whatever, watch out, because they have learned how to do all of the requirements backwards in heels and a bikini. So God help you if you go across them on a bill, because they got PowerPoint presentations and the outfit to match. Like you're not gonna outdo the situation, because they are bringing guns to knife fights. Like, that's just the nature of the business. If you look at a Miss Universe caliber of woman that's there, I mean, I've judged the thing and I won the thing, and I feel inadequate when I read some of these girls' like bios, like in their countries, they're like solving crises and they are going to outer space and they are gorgeous to boot and like, feeding the homeless in the jungles of Brazil. I mean, it's insane. Like they're like some Amazonian next level race of people. It's insane.
Yeah, it's super prepared women. So I want to hone in on your pageant journey because, look, sure. I was a young...
You're still
Miss
young.
Universe, pageant loving kid and then young adult. And you were one of the first people I ever saw of Asian descent win. I waited my whole life watching, especially from the US. And so I think what I would tell you, having followed your journey, watching Miss USA that year and watching you win Miss Universe, and of course, seeing the videos that become viral every year, is I think the reason you probably ended up winning the big titles at the end after years of not winning anything is that you were in it for just the joy of being in it and sort of the practical rewards, earning college scholarship money. And you never tried to be a pageant patty queen, as we would call them, right? Because you never were winning, you weren't expected to win a lot of the competitions. Right. So you weren't trying to fit into the mold. And at the very end, when you finally did cross over the first sort of line to win Miss Hawaii USA, what ended up helping you win Miss USA and then Miss Universe were your entirely original, spontaneous, unexpected, refreshingly funny, yet intelligent answers that are the hallmark of Brook Lee. But I think that's probably from years of not expecting to win. Well, is that a fair assessment?
It's fair, but I think there's a lot of studies, there's a lot of TED Talks, there's a lot of people out there that are saying, especially in today's day and age with the way that people are growing up with only curated views of perfect worlds and curated lives on the internet and on Instagram, failing is a skill. Losing is a skill. If you learn how to come back from, there is no reason why a girl who shows up in Miss Hawaii every year and loses would want to go back the next year. And there I was, the Susan Lucci of the Miss Hawaii pageant system, and I got real comfortable with being okay with losing. And when you are able to do that, you are unstoppable because you know that there is something on the other side of that. I may not have won the trophy, but I've gained experience. I've had fun. I've made connections and I'll be better the next time. And it drives my kids crazy. I'll tell you honestly, because they grow up in a world where it's like, you got to be Tiger Woods out the gate. You got to get on America's Got Talent and you got to hit it out the park at 9. You know what I mean? And for me, it's like, go to the auditions. My daughter's 10 and she is got to help me because she's like me on crack. So she's unstoppable and she's 10. Like I didn't have the chutzpah that this girl has at 10. But I tell her, go to all the auditions, fail miserably, fall flat on your butt, get back up and do it again. And she enjoys just going. Like she'll go to auditions for plays, just like a private karaoke session. She don't care if she gets it. She don't get casted. She's a little white Jewish girl in the middle of an island of dark-haired beauties. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like she goes in there and she sings her dead mom from Beetlejuice and doesn't get called back, and she don't care. She'll be right back there the next time singing a song from Six with her curly hair and her pale skin. She just loves the process. And for me, I'm like, the younger you learned how to do that and you're okay with not being validated, you're going to be a very powerful person later because you just become friends with the challenge. That's all.
Well, you also are owning who you are and why you like to do things, not for like the external validation of it. It's because you like the process or the activity.
Right. Which is hard. It's hard in pageants because external validation is the whole reason why you're there. Otherwise you'd be an IT person. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's like very schizophrenic on some levels. For sure.
Right. But I guess the lesson of that is be willing to lose and lose often in order to learn what it takes for you to win.
Yeah, I mean, some people would argue with me because they're like, nobody goes to a pageant wanting to lose. And I agree with that. You agree to go there. Everybody they win their lottery ticket. Everyone thinks their lottery ticket is going to win. But what I tell girls who go to international competitions, I say, one girl is going to win. That's the statistics. 6 or 7 random judges on any given night could pick that girl, and they'll pick a different girl on a different night. That's just the randomness of the world we live in.
Absolutely. You and I have both judged pageants. It's just who the random judges are.
And who you want versus who I want, we don't control. It's an average. You cannot control the room. Even as the best girl up there, you cannot control the room. So you have to go with that in your mind. Yes, you have the winning mindset and you're going there to be the best person you can be. But when you get there, it's like you got to just let it take the wheel, because as long as you are showing up and doing your authentic whatever, that's all you can do. You can't control the judges. You can't control the room. You can't control egg lighting number 5 coming at you from a side angle, or the cameraman who hit you at the wrong time in swimsuit. Like those things are beyond your control. It's just beyond your control. So
speaking of being authentic and things in your control, you know I have to do this. You are so well known for the classic final answer, which many pageant fans will still say is the best, if not clearly one of the 2 or 3 best ever final answers in all of Miss Universe history.
Right.
I'll be George Hamilton. And for context to the audience who doesn't know what happened is the reigning Miss Universe of 1996, Alicia Machado, had gained some weight during her reign and was the subject of a lot of press controversy. This is even the days before social media, and it was hitting the TV news. And so this was a topic of discussion, not just at Miss Universe when you were winning Miss USA. That was actually the direct final question of Miss USA, I recall. But at Miss Universe, George Hamilton asked you, when you got to the final 3, this question. If there were no rules in your life for one day and you could be outrageous, what would you do?
It's interesting because today, when people watch that clip without the context, they actually see it in a very different light. Like there's a whole subsection of the community who think that I was crying out for help, that it was an eating disorder, that it was, me sort of making a political statement about the state of, women's bodies and that sort of thing. And that's fine. Like I can't control where the world goes. But I do know that me, the one saying it from my brain at that time, I was just sort of commenting towards the fact that Alicia had a very hard year, and that there was a ticker tape underneath us that said, should the new Miss Universe be held to a weight clause in her contract? And that was underneath our faces as we were running through the entire pageant that night. And that hadn't been happening during rehearsals. So no one knew about that ticker tape thing until live when they called us down. And I, being the person of, I pay attention. I am in the moment. When I heard them start talking about call into this 1866 number, should the new Miss Universe, I just started formulating in my head, if I get that far and I'm able to address this, I'm going to make a point to make this a thing, because this is really just beyond the pale at this point. And so divine intervention, cosmic, commonality, I don't know. When that answer teed up, that question teed up, he's like, if you had no rules, I was like looking at the heavens going, I got it. Hold my beer for a second. And that's why I said what I said, because I was paying attention and I had something I needed to say. And it wasn't in defense of her per se. She and I were not exactly friends. That's on record. She had a very tough year. She wasn't very kind to me, but I was speaking on behalf of just the moral, no one should have to go through that. And I, going in as Miss Universe, was not going to accept that as that was going to be my line in the sand anyway. So if the new Miss Universe needs to be held to a clause in her contract, let me address it right now. She's going to eat everything and she's going to eat it twice. Take notes. So that's kind of what I did. Which is the
classic answer. Right?
And I honestly did not think I was going to win. Like saying that.
My favorite is when you took a breath in and touch your tummy when you say it.
Yeah, because I was like, I'm not going to win. I already have a speedboat. I'm Miss USA. I'm totally fine. I'm going to land just fine. I'm just going to take a shot and see where it lands. And I'll just greet the Miss Universe when we get back to LA and have our matching apartments. I'm good. So that was just me, just swinging for the fences. I had no idea it was going to win. Not even.
So for those of you who haven't watched the clip, go watch it virally. It's all over YouTube, and it comes up every year during the pageants. It's to the question Brooke just said, I would eat everything twice.
Yeah.
You do not understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So sometimes it drives me crazy, and I do have to jump on the socials when people are like, oh, that's so sad. She had to starve herself. Oh, it's so sad. And I'm just like, sweetness, go Google, ask AI. Go ask
AI now, ChatGPT.
Go ask ChatGPT about Brook Lee and Donald Trump and, Eating Machine and Alicia Machado. Go do some history before you, Yeah.
So I think what's so interesting about the answer now, even years later, is it did not directly, address the issue, right? You didn't take it head on, but you sort of took it on indirectly, but in a very funny way and a personal way. And that's one of the things I advise people, not just in pageants, which, I'm not an official pageant coach either, but just in general, when they're talking about job interviews or doing media or selling their product or service, you just have to really be genuine about something personal. I think people react to personal things.
Hard. It's very hard, though, for a lot of people to get. It's a vulnerability that is it's a skill. Especially I've noticed in these next generations, because I'm old as dirt at this point. But
we're about the same age.
I do believe that the generations that came up after us that are under these veneers and these sort of filters and these expectations, you learn even through sheer osmosis to hide all of the flaws and to put the filters on. And you grow up that way from a very young age. And so to find that authenticity is very difficult because you're not seeing it around you.
Yep.
And so it's very difficult to mimic that when you don't see it, when everything is curated and you go on your doom scrolls and everybody's houses have themes for Halloween and, my mom's doing Harry Potter, birthdays for my son's second birthday and Harry Potter shows up and you're just like, how do we show up in a way that's just, I can't even put my sweats on this morning. My kid's going to eat Cheetos and a Coke. Where is that aesthetic? You know what I'm saying? So I think it's harder. It's getting harder to break through the veneers. And so to become to peel it all away and be almost like it's going to become like a retro homespun type thing, because people for so long now have become so curated. Like, I watch things now. When did we start putting foundation on our faces? Like dripping it on our faces to put it on. Like, when did that become
I don't know.
I went to Barbizon. You put it with like, when did it become like a thing? It's because everybody's on camera at all times, and they're performing at all times, and you just get into this sort of like Chuck Woolery type shtick, and it just becomes your everyday life, and it's hard for people to disengage from that. I think it's very difficult. Yeah.
I love all your 1980s references. By the way.
God bless Chuck Woolery. God bless. R.I.P.
God bless Barbizon.
Yeah. Right.
But I think, the really powerful lesson is to, one, be willing to be vulnerable. And I agree, it is a learned skill. It is very difficult. It's a skill. It is. It's not just a reaction. It is a learned skill to learn how to do that comfortably with people, both in private conversations and on public stages.
Yeah.
And then secondly, being willing to state your opinion, including to the institution that you might be representing and working
100%.
for on a global stage.
I mean, we've seen that just completely degrade, even in the pageant industry, just in the last couple of years of, people stepping down from their titles. And, it's a very difficult time for a lot of people, and to fight for your voice and your authenticity, even when nobody else believes you. I mean, we've seen that with the Me Too movement. We've seen that, it's like, it's everybody is having their moments, and you really have to pick and choose what you're going to show up for and what you're going to support. Like, for me, I'm always like giving people the benefit of the doubt, because it's like, it's very easy to get lost in the noise. You know what I mean? And so people's truths are people's truths, and their truth might be their truth. Two people could have the same experience, and one walks away with it being completely different than the other. You know what I mean? So it's like, where do you find the balance? And so I just am like, if everybody just shows up with a little bit of kindness, especially today in these days, and just gives a little bit of grace in general, and just be like, everyone's trying, you hope as we get closer to the next couple of weeks, that everybody shows up in their best way possible, and is just trying to be as kind and have grace for other people and what people are going through. That's all you can hope for. It's all you can hope for.
The other thing I wanted to talk about while we're wrapping up our pageant discussion here is your mixed race background, because I know a lot of mixed race people, but I think you have more different types of blood in your heritage than anyone I know. Why don't you tell us, the audience, all of the different racial, ethnic backgrounds that make up Brook Mahealani Lee.
So I could go in descending order of power, like what I'm the most of, if you'd like. So like, I'm predominantly Caucasian, surprisingly, but so I'm Dutch, English, French, Portuguese. Those are the Caucasian bloods. I'm a little under a half Hawaiian, native Hawaiian, which means I'm of a people that were here before white people were here, not because I'm born here. And then I'm Korean and I'm Chinese. So, my if you 23andMe, it's mostly Caucasian blood, and mostly Hawaiian, and then, a quarter Korean and Chinese, a little bit of Chinese. So I look Hispanic. I've done Hispanic market while I lived in Los Angeles, many a commercial. I don't speak a lick of, Spanish, because I'm not. But that's really what my demographic, people just assume that I am of, some sort of Latin mix, or I'm Filipino, which I'm not. But yeah, so that's the genetic mix that I am. Yeah.
How did that affect, I think, your identity growing up and then your pageant journey?
Well, that's interesting, because I grew up in Hawaii. So in Hawaii, I'm the majority. And so I didn't know what Asian American meant. I didn't know what minority meant. White people, for those of you who want to move out here that aren't white, case in point, Barack Obama, president of the United States at one point, born and raised here in Hawaii. minorities are the majority in Hawaii. White people are actually the minority here, as my husband, who is white, will painfully attest to when he got off the plane and started to live here is...
And he's very, very white.
Yeah, he's like a Hollywood Jew. So like they have not seen the likes of him on this island. So, you know, it wasn't until I became Miss USA, ironically enough, that I was being contacted in that short amount of time that I was Miss USA to do events for the Asian American marginalized communities in New York and places like that. And they had to get me with somebody because I really didn't have that experience. So I wanted to be as supportive as I could, but I actually felt like a white person because I grew up the majority. So I didn't know what it was like to be marked as Korean. Like I don't know what to, I didn't know how to identify with that subset. And so it took me a hot second to realize, oh, me becoming Miss USA of Asian descent is a big deal. That's never been seen. That's kind of crazy to me. So I had to bone up. And when I went to these events like Korean adoptees, and I learned a lot about what it's like on the continental United States for people of Asian American background. And I was clueless because in Hawaii, we're Alice through the looking glass. Like, that's just the way it is.
And I think that's awesome and great for you as you're fixing your technical setup there.
Yeah, sorry.
I think the real lesson for all of us is what would people be like, identify like, feel like if they felt unlimited, right? If they never felt the limitations of what society places on minorities or women or LGBT people or people from foreign countries or different religions. It's a really interesting microcosm that you lived in.
But I think you
is very blessed.
You've gone through this in your profession as well. Yeah. And I do think that the needle has moved since, we were coming up.
It has.
There are way more people of color in all aspects of not only the entertainment community, but every other community. I think that it's come a long way. Do we have more to do? Absolutely. But I think that I have seen, especially in the entertainment field, I have seen a needle move. I definitely feel like, there's more representation of behind and in front of the camera. And there is just more of an acceptance of people that are not just Cheryl Teagues and blonde haired and, blue-eyed. Yeah. So, I definitely do see that there's a tide that's changing for sure.
Absolutely. I think the rise of the streaming services have really advanced that because there's just so much more content that can be produced and distributed now to niche audience that can be profitable. Back in the days of just only broadcast television and only theatrical distribution of motion pictures, it was just harder.
The gatekeeping was real. The gatekeeping was really real. But I will say that shout out to the K-pop community and the K-drama community. Yeah. Like, what is happening for Korea right now with its global sort of domination, I think has changed people's perception about Asians in general. And because there are people in countries that I couldn't even tell you where they are who are learning how to speak Korean because they love BTS or they want to watch Squid Games or, there's just, and I'm Korean. I went to Korea. I'm the only Korean Miss Universe they've ever had. So, that tiny little place has made such a global impact on the entire world. Like, it's kind of mind-blowing. And if you're a little boy living in Arkansas of Korean American descent in the last couple of years, you are so much more popular, sir.
You were way cooler than I was.
When we were growing up, we had Long Duck Dong and a bunch of other media nerd whatever. Y'all are you're in your guys' era. Y'all are front and center. Good going.
Good for them. Good for them. Absolutely. So how did it feel to be asked to do either modeling, spokesperson jobs, or media opportunities in other countries or ethnic communities that you're not really part of? Being treated as if you were Hispanic or being asked to do something in the Filipino market. How did that make you feel?
I mean, being from Hawaii, look, honestly, I can't say enough about how grateful I am to be born in the middle of the sea in a place that is such a melting pot that comes from a culture that's based in aloha where we just accept everybody, like plantation style. People of all persuasions were standing up next to each other in pineapple fields, learning a pidgin language, and part Japanese, part Chinese, part Filipino. Like, so I have a little bit of all those cultures just in my exposure of being from Hawaii. So I'm not really, we just know how to roll with things in the islands because everybody passes through here at some point. So when I go to another country, I am like I am at home. It's like, okay, we're in Taiwan right now. Great. How do you say hello in their language? If I go to Malaysia, like what's the culture here? Like, let's get into it. If I go to Panama, teach me the dance. I'll dance it in the opening number. Like I'm really just about what I tell girls when they win Miss Universe. You got 1 year. You got 1 year. You hit the ground running, and you will be remiss if you don't soak it all up. Like every depth and breadth of it, because you may never be back there again. Honestly, you may never. And I guarantee you, if you go back there, like I could go back to Bolivia. Will I go back there with like an armed truck, a helicopter, and an ambulance following me everywhere?
No.
That's not going to happen again. That's not going to happen my year as Miss Universe. So I'm going to enjoy all of it. I'm going to film it all. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to get, into it. And like, that's what I tell the girls is like, just absorb everything you can because it goes fast. It goes real quick.
Well, we're going to have to find reason to get you back to places like Korea or my native Vietnam, which are obviously big beauty industry and beauty pageant worlds. You hear that? Pageant people that I know in Korea and Vietnam, and you know who you are, invite Brook Lee. Miss Cosmo is going to be calling you. I hope. We'll see. So, final question about beauty pageants.
Yeah.
Tell us one thing about your experience during the Miss Universe pageant or during your reign that you've never told before.
I mean, it's all kind of been out there, honestly. I mean...
Anything.
The Miss Universe pageant, my year, and it's been documented, was a very tumultuous year because it was a transitional year between one regime and another regime. So it was tough all the way around. Sure. Like the office was very stressed because, like any other corporate takeover, there was just a lot of cross talk and
changes of leadership.
Changes are always hard when you are at the center of it because you are the focal point and the face of it. You kind of have to pick your battles and where you're going to sort of make your alliances. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot that year about who my friends were, what it meant to be Miss Universe on the exterior versus the interior. I mean, people don't, I'll tell you a story. Maybe I told this before. I used to answer the phones at the Miss Universe pageant. Like I was friends with the people in the office. I'd go there on my day off, So one day, people went to lunch, so I'm sitting at the front desk, and I'm literally answering, hello, Miss Universe. And they're like, yeah, right. I'm like, no, really, this is Miss Universe 1997. How can I help you? And they're just like, yeah, right. And I'm like, can I connect you? Where would you like to go? Like, those are the kinds of things that I would do just because, why not? I'm sitting in LA. I'm not on a trip. Why not? Go hang out.
Did you do it in your crown?
No, that I
no. In today's social media age, that would be like a whole little. That would be a TikTok video.
That would have been gauche. That would have been weird. That would have been weird. Yeah.
But today, that would be like a TikTok video.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Okay. So you just mentioned something interesting. You learned who your friends were in a time of sort of corporate challenges. So this is unique not just to a beauty pageant having new owners, but anytime there's new leadership regime in big organizations or an acquisition of a company. Right. There is this sort of like, I don't want to call it political turf war, but like, allegiances sort of realign, often quickly. How did you navigate that? What piece of advice would you give to anyone trying to figure out in any corporate situation, who their true allies and friends are?
Well, I mean, I'm not proud to say this, but my year as being Miss Universe, even though that was my first real job. Like my whole life, I was an entertainer in Hawaii and a hula dancer and a student. But I never held a 9 to 5. I didn't know how to punch in and punch out. I didn't know the corporate work. I didn't even know how to dress in a suit. And I'm on an island. Like, we don't have a Wall Street. Like, no one here, even if we have a Wall Street here, they're going to work in an aloha shirt and khakis. We're very laid back people. So me having to learn the rules of the game in a corporate environment, first of all, for those of you who are running in a pageant, just FYI, you don't just win on a Friday, get some flowers and a shiny thing, and then you like show up at some villa and get, fed grapes and bonbons for the rest of your reign. It's a full-blown job. Like, you sign a contract, you're on hours, you've got PTO, like, you got a 401k, at least in my year, I don't know now, but like, you got to go to a bank, you got to get deposit slips. Like, I had a boot camp in adulting at 27 years of age. And on top of learning those skills, the fact that there was like an entire regime switch that was happening was really enlightening to me, because a lot of these people had been there for years. I mean, generationally. So to watch the sort of slow turn of the tides, you just take copious notes. Like, I was just like, this is something I don't think I'm ever going to, okay, let's just duly noted. Yeah. So that's really, it was a boot camp in like corporate sort of turnover 101 that was like on some Aaron Spelling next level.
Because it was in Hollywood involving the beauty industry. My goodness.
Yeah.
It probably could be a nighttime soap for that.
And a certain individual who had bought the pageant, who shall remain nameless at this point, but go ask ChatGPT. So, I mean, it was a lot. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about what you're working on now. So you're back. You've been back in Hawaii for 6 years.
Yes.
Tell us what kind of projects and things you're working on and how people might find you.
Well, so Hawaii is one of those wonderful places where the price of paradise is what it is. So you have like 50,000 jobs, because that's just the price of bread and milk. But, when I moved back to Hawaii from Los Angeles, I really didn't know where I was going to land. Like, I hadn't been back here since I'd won the title. And so I was just sort of like seeing what was out there. And so I started a show called Modern Wahine Hawaii, which was focusing on women here in the community and abroad that were doing wonderful things in the community, and just a way to just sort of share their messages. So I did that for like 4 seasons. I was on a podcast during the whole pandemic situation with another personality from here called Lanai he won the great food truck race one year. So we did that for 10 seasons, and we were able to reach out to people with local ties here locally as well as abroad. And so we're bringing that podcast back as well. And, I started managing a Hawaii band that's very notable here in Hawaii called Naleo Pilimihana. They're actually very big in Japan as well. And it's 3 girls that have been together since they were in high school. They just celebrated their 40th year together. And I shepherded them through their entire 40th tour. I do a lot of things. I do corporate speaking. I do, hosting. I dance down at Halikulani still. I've been doing that since college, 3 nights a week. So I'm really busy. really busy.
I found out about the dancing because, as you might remember, a few years ago, 2 of my friends from the Bitcoin community happened to be at the show and took a video and sent it to me.
Everybody ends up there at some point. It's literally like the raffles, maybe, of Hawaii.
Right,
Everybody who's anybody shows up at the house without a key at some point during their time in Hawaii, for sure.
What was the transition like for you to move back to your home island after years of first being Miss Universe traveling the world and then having and building a life in LA, entertainment capital of the world? There was a lot of talk between my husband and I. He's born and raised in Hollywood. That's his Hawaii. Of eventually landing here. I don't think we were thinking of landing here that quickly, but we literally came home for a summer like we always do. My son was going to a summer camp, and my daughter, we had put her into an indigenous Hawaiian preschool program when we lived on the mainland. We just put her name in and was like, she won't get in. We'll just see. And she got accepted to Kamehameha School's preschool, which is a school I graduated from.
And so when we got the letter while we were home, it was 4th of July weekend, and they're like, hey, a spot opened up for preschool at Kamehameha schools. If you want the spot, we need to know within the next 2 days. And I literally just looked at my husband. I'm like, this is a sign. We're moving home. And he's like, what? It's like, grab all of our stuff. We're staying. And it was really a snap decision. But I'm grateful that we did it. That was about a year and a half, 2 years before COVID. And we just sort of figured it out. We built the ship as we were sailing it, kind of a thing. So it wasn't like a meditated back in LA, packing all of our things into, like a cube and sending it on a Maxon container. It was really sort of it was a snap decision made because opportunities were given to my family. And I just took the leap of faith, and everything just sort of rose up to meet us in the process. Kind of thing.
And how's Tori handling island life?
It took him a while, I'm not going to lie. For people who are thinking about it, especially right now, it is a little bit of an adjustment. It's a quieter life. It's not LA. You can't get everything you want when you want it. Everything comes in on a boat. So, there is a little bit of that Gilligan's Island sort of like, what am I going to have to build it? Like, how am I going to get the things I want or whatever? But he's sort of mellowed into it. Like now with the whole world as it is in its moments right now, he's sort of starting to understand and realize that being on a location like this is actually quite a blessing, and an ability to be able to not have to deal with a lot of the other those extenuating circumstances that have been going on. So, yeah.
Oh, like the LA fires, we're filming this, right as the LA is still experiencing its fire situation. And
how are you? You're up there.
I'm safe. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm sort of a digital nomad now. So in LA at the moment, but I unfortunately know 6 different sets of really good friends who've lost their homes.
Yeah. I mean, everybody,
it's like, really sad.
Look, we went through it with Lahaina. And even though it was an isolated place on a neighbor island, like everyone had a touchstone to Lahaina, even people from all around the world. Lahaina is like New Orleans. I mean, it is a very iconic part of the zeitgeist of people's experiences in the islands. And that was devastating. And then to see this happening in Los Angeles, which is, was a place that you forged a lot of your identity, myself as well.
Totally.
I was there for 20 something years, and we are all touched by someone. Altadena, I mean, my place is still in Silver Lake. Like Altadena is right over there,
Yeah.
So
it's not that far,
and it's not even over. That's my other concern.
It's not. I know.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about some positive things.
Yeah.
You talked about some of the work you're doing now.
Yeah.
What kinds of projects would you like to be doing in the future? Let's see what we can manifest for Brook Lee. What kinds of things would you like to be knocking on your door or creating yourself?
Right. I mean, I'll be real honest with you. Like,
Please.
I've noticed in the last, here's the thing. This is the secret for those people that are watching. Like, I've noticed. So I just turned 54, literally last week on the 8th.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Me and Elvis Presley, on January 8th. But I do notice that in the beauty industry, particularly, there isn't a lot of space. Like, we just sort of are, it's an understood sort of quiet, like when you get to a certain stage, that you just sort of quietly exit stage left, and you let the new cycle of youth and bloom. And it's not an industry that you are supposed to linger in, and you're supposed to show what it's like when you're past that, that premium apex portion of your life. And so I struggled, from my 40s on, to find those spaces where I was like, where am I going to land? Where do I go? Where's the exit? What do I do? And I found myself reaching out to other former Miss Universes because I wanted to know, what are we supposed to do? Is there a post handbook for the post Miss Universe experience? Is there a checklist? Are there things we're supposed to be doing? Turn off the lights, lock the door, what? And so I've really leaned on the women that have come before me who shaped an entire industry. I mean, we're talking the 80s titans of the Miss Universe experience. And I've really leaned on a lot of them and just their way that they live their lives on how I want to, I guess, for lack of a better word, go out. It's like, what am I going to do? And so when I see people like Justine Bateman or, Paulina Porskova or, they're trying to punch out against that ageist sort of mentality of the fact that a woman is only vital when she's of a certain 5-minute see fly moment in their life. And when you're done with that, be gone. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of where I am at now, is that I'm trying to find a space where I can connect with people who are interested in what is it going to be like now that we are no longer of the ilk of being desirable by Hollywood standards or desirable by the male gaze or desirable by the standards by which you're 50 something years old. Maybe don't do that anymore, kind of a thing. Like, I'm looking for those signposts of women that are unapologetically aging, regardless of what they look like, without any sort of apologies about it, because it's going to happen. It happens. There's no way around it. No way around it. So what
happens to all of us, happens to gay Asian men too, right?
That's kind of where I'm at, is sort of finding out where that space is and what my experience has been in it, and where I can sort of what am I finding out? What are the answers for me personally? That's kind of where I'm struggling a little bit.
And I'm glad you were so honest about that, because I think people who, I know when I talk to people and they realize I have a history with the Miss Universe pageant organization, they ask me all these questions about former beauty queens. I think people have in mind that you win Miss Universe and then your life is perfect for the rest of their life. Yeah. Right? That it's amazing. And some go on to some great careers in acting or television or politics.
Run countries. Yeah, for sure.
But it's not linear, right? There is no playbook afterwards, because each Miss Universe or Miss World or Miss whatever title holder is a different person. They have different talents and different interests. Yeah. And while the beauty industry is a natural step for them to take, either in continued modeling or, television, entertainment opportunities, it's not necessarily right for everyone. And I think the lesson for everyone is, even if you achieve some apex moment early in your life and career, the rest of life can still be very confusing and and lost. I have moments over my career every certain number of years. I have to reassess what am I doing? I've done this and that sounds successful, but am I really happy? What's the next opportunity? And as you get older in any, I think, career and profession, a lot of my former lawyer friends bring this up to me. They want to do something different, but it's harder to figure out what to do once you get to certain ages. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you are scared of, am I going to start all over again? Do I have the time to do this right now? Let's look at the clock. You know what I mean? But my son is 17. He's about to head off to college. We just finished doing all of that college applications, January 15th, the date that parents have been wringing their hands about. I have sons. He's about to embark on a whole nother life. And all I say to him is what your life is going to be like in college is nothing like it's going to be when you leave college. The world as you know it, not the world that I knew, because it was a lot slower then. With the way that technology and the world is working right now, AI and that whole portion of the world we don't even know in zeros and ones, it's moving so fast that you just have to stay true to what it is that you want to do, regardless of if it's a CPA, if it's a trade job, don't listen to the world saying, well, you got to get into anesthesiology, or you got to go be, in tech, or because you don't know where AI is going to filter through the ground and fill in all of the little holes in the world that we know. It's still being formulated. But if you have a passion and you know what you want to do, you'll find a way to do it, and you'll do it in a way that's either going to be in conjunction with the flow of technology, or it's going to be necessary, because technology cannot do that one soft skill. That one soft skill, whatever that is,
but it's up to him as a human being to really take this time in college to find out what is important to him and to find a way to do that. If it's obscure, like underwater basket weaving of Vikings, go to Uppsala, study that shit in Sweden. God bless, because AI can't do that. They can't go over there and they can't do that. So you might help them. So
yes, technology still needs heart.
Yeah, I mean, for now.
Humanity needs heart. For now.
Yeah, I mean.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For now.
Don't leave it back to Zuckerberg. He'll find a heart. Don't you worry about that. He's got a test pilot somewhere in Kauai right now. He's running some big calculations as we speak. 100%. He's like, aloha spirit. How do we deconstruct that? Let's go down to Poipu and figure this out. Yeah.
We just bottle up some Brook Lee. You'll be the new substance. You're going to create the new substance. By the way, you look amazing and fantastic. No one would ever guess your age. And I want to ask this next question because it probably hones in on what you're feeling. Do you, when you're making choices about yourself professionally and things you want to do, feel extra pressure in making those choices because you are a former Miss Universe? Yeah,
you do end up saying, you say no a lot more than you say yes. And it's mostly because you get to a stage, and even my friends who are in the business in Hollywood, like Amy Hill and like Alec Mapa and people like that, it's like,
Alec Mapa,
God bless, you get to a certain point in your career, especially as a minority, where you've done certain things and you're not apologizing for it. That was what was available to you as an actor at that point in the zeitgeist of time. But then you move beyond it. You're like, I don't want to do those things anymore. I don't need to do those things anymore. I won't do those things anymore. And it's really just about what's going to fulfill you. And like, for me, I'm just like, my time is my time. And there's just certain things I just don't want to do anymore. There's just somebody else can speak to it better than I can. I'm not interested in having those conversations or being in that area. And so I just have to say no a lot. So, and that is hard because you want to be like accessible, but then you also just are like, there's nothing in it. There's nothing I can contribute to this right now. There's other people that might be able to help you do that kind of a thing. All right, let's spend our last few minutes trying to give our audience some win lessons of advice from your life and experience. Yeah. What's the best lesson or lessons that you gained from your pageant journey and experience that have helped you later in life to achieve what you find to be successes? I mean, I think the biggest life journey lesson was to just listen to myself. I think the only reason why I ended up being able to be who I was authentically at Miss Universe was I went through every other iteration of myself that I could. I listened to everybody but myself up until that point. If someone told me I needed to wear a yellow dress at Miss Downtown Honolulu, I wore that dress. If a pageant person told me your swimsuit has to be green and it can't be a bikini because you're short-waisted, I would do that. I would listen to everybody because I was like, they know better than I do. They've been in this a long time. So I would give away my agency and things. And then by the time I got through all of it and hadn't won, trying it everybody else's way, didn't move a needle. I was like, at this point, this is my last opportunity. I'm going to age out. I'm just going to try it my way because if I don't, I'm never going to know. I've tried it everybody else's way and my track record sucks. So let me just see what's going to happen if I just cut out all the noise, do what I want, say what I want. And if I lose, at least I know I did it. I lost on my own terms and not blaming somebody else. And once I started doing that, it was just green lights all the way up the board. And you can't get more of a cosmic thumbs up than that validation in a lot of sense, where it's like, okay, you want to say you're going to eat everything twice? Here's the crown. You know what I mean? It's like, so for the rest of my life, that's again, what drives my kids crazy is I am a living personification of being validated for being ultimately authentic. I don't know how to be anything else because I was given literally a gold star on my head. You were given the universe. Yeah. For saying something that no one else in their life would have ever said. And so once you hit that, you can never divert, because that's the goal. That's the mark you have to keep hitting. Like, that's the only way I know how to be. And I was validated for it. So I got to keep doing that. So it's not hard for me to be like that, because it was easy in the sense that that's how I became Miss Universe, was just being me. So
it's how you had your first big success.
Yeah. So, and I think that what I have to remind myself of when I'm telling other girls this, that's not necessarily their truth. It's not that hard. They didn't win Miss Universe, so they don't have the ultimate validation for it. And it's scary. It might be scary for them. And so you can't just assume that people are going to be like, okay, Jesus, take the wheel, kind of a thing, so yeah.
Yeah, let's hone in on that. It is scary for people to learn to be their authentic self and not listen to what other people say they should do, to be iterations of yourself, as you say, which happens with a lot of young people.
Right.
How are you navigating that with your own children, as well as other young people that you might mentor or advise or come talk to, for inspirational advice? That's how do you, it's a hard thing, because you and I have done it. We went through iterations of ourselves before really just saying, wait a minute, this is just who I am.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for the fact that people have to get there when they get there. It's sort of like recovery of sobriety. Like, you have to come to terms with yourself, or you only have yourself. You're going to run away from yourself. At some point, you're going to meet yourself in the mirror. Whenever you have that moment, that's for you to have. My son, on his own accord, not through us, he divorced himself from social media on his own, because he realized that it was making him just completely insane. So he doesn't have an Instagram account. He stopped doing that his freshman year, and he's much better for it. I know that's not the norm, but he did that on his own. My daughter has lived and breathed like YouTube. She doesn't even know what regular television is. Mm-hmm. She doesn't know who actors are. Her whole world is YouTube. She went to VidCon. Like, she's that generation where they don't even know what TV is. Like, they watch everything on their devices, and her stars, her Cary Grant is Markiplier. You know what I mean? Like these people, like the crew, it's an entirely different world. But for her, she thinks she's on TikTok. She thinks she's on these things because we let her have an account, which she doesn't know, which God hope she doesn't watch this, is it all just goes into a file on my husband's phone. Like, she thinks she's putting it out there, but she's really not. She's literally the equivalent of you and I in our bedroom in the 80s, singing into our hairbrush, on a mirror. That's what we used to do. Preach. But she's doing it on a camera, thinking that she's putting it out there, but she's really not. She's really
I never knew that was possible.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So don't tell her. Don't tell her, world. Don't come for my Bailey. Don't come for my Bailey bear. Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, wow. What's the one biggest mistake you think you've made that you wish you would have done differently and learned from?
You know what? And this comes back to haunt me quite a bit. Like, in my sunset years now, is there was an opportunity that I had to go on, what is his name? He was very mean to beauty queens. He had a talk show in New York. He has a fuzzy beard now. He's not on TV anymore.
I don't recall. Okay.
David Letterman.
Okay.
So I was doing press in New York. It was a round robin thing, all of these different stations, and I was killing it I'm used to doing, because I'm very good extemporaneously. And one of the producers from David Letterman was there, and he was like, "We'd really like you to come on the show." And I was like, "Nope." It was like, "What do you mean, nope?" I'm like, "Sir, I've seen him talk to Miss Americas before. I've seen him have beauty queens on his show. Mm-hmm. He is not kind, and I'm not interested in getting into a tete-a-tete with David Letterman." And they're like, "Yeah, but you're not like those girls. Like, we really think this would be great." And I'm like, "Nope, not going to happen. Not on my watch." And now in retrospect, I'm like a little bit sad that I didn't, because I think it might have been an interesting dynamic, but I was just like, I don't want to be lambasted on national television. But I want him to live in my life forever as a good human.
But you could have been the one that changed his perception of beauty
I mean,
queens.
maybe we'll really never know.
You'll never know.
But
never
yeah,
know.
so that's like one of my only regrets is that I didn't do Letterman. That would have been fun.
All right.
But I did Oprah. So,
You did awesome. I know. Got a little Oprah.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. What are the biggest hopeful wins in life, not even career, that you are hoping come into your journey over the next decades before you're sunsetted out, which is not happening anytime soon, by the way. I predict Brook Mahealani Lee is going to be the rising Hawaii sun for decades to come over all of us.
I think for me, it's really just about like aging in a way that is appropriately comfortable for me and whatever that means. It is a struggle. I'm not going to lie. Like, people try to fake it till they make it in this business and say like, it's fine and we're good. And I'm going to like be all like teeth, boobs and toes. But, it's very difficult to age in an industry that holds you to a standard of 1997 for the rest of your life. And I will double down on that by saying, when you say you would eat everything and you would eat it twice, girl, you better not look like it. Okay. So, that's like a struggle for me. And as much as it means a lot, at some point, my husband tells me, he's like, at some point, Asian don't raisin, but like, it's going to happen, love. You're going to have to just come to terms with the devil in the pale moonlight. And I'm like, I know. What? So that's kind of like, what am I going to go to Korea and become bionic? Like, am I just going to go there and they're going to stem cell everything and AI the rest? I don't know. Stay tuned. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we all have, concerns about aging, but I think you have the extra pressure of being a former Miss Universe. But I'm going to tell you, my phrase is not Asian, don't raisin. It's rice always looks nice.
You should teach
There
her.
you go. And I mean it in all sincerity, when I say I think you look better than you have since even the day I met you, because I think you have a confidence, a glowing maturity in the best sense, right?
Thank you.
And it emanates, and I will close on this, by reinforcing when I read comments today, getting ready for this interview, I looked at some of the TikTok, YouTube videos that are still out there now with your final answer from Miss Universe or your final answer from Miss USA in 1997, which are all refreshing. It wasn't the answer you gave substantively, it was just the unique manner in which you said it. That what I find remarkable and that you should know is that not just for pageant fans like me from the 80s and 90s who still think of you as one of our favorite Miss Universes, but people today still will comment about how refreshing, authentic, intelligent, charming, humorous, unique you are. And that is why you were such a deserving winner back in 1997 and continue to be today as the ultimate Miss Universe win for me.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. That's like the ultimate, I guess, the ultimate riz is to be able to be remembered not only for what you looked like, but what you said. And so I'm grateful that it still resides with people and resounds with people. And I didn't do it for that reason, but I'm glad that people are still, taking it to heart. So, yeah.
And I think it's not just what you said, it's the energy, spirit, that glint in your eye, that look of laughter that really shows your spirit, your energy, your aloha, as you would say. All right.
Here.
Mahalo, my friend. So
Thank
everyone,
you.
please give a warm embrace and virtual hug to Miss Universe 1997 and the Queen of the Universe forever and ever and ever, who is never sunsetting. She's going to swirl around the global sun as the queen of all of us. And thanks for sharing your lessons on wins in life for all the world to see. Thanks all. Thank you, Brook Mahealani Lee.